If you ever work a night shift, don't follow the crying when the hallway is empty. I learned that in 2020. My name is Emily Hart, a junior nurse at Ridgewood Community Hospital, a small-town facility tucked between a river and a stand of old pine trees. I'd been on the job 7 months. Nights felt safe to me, quiet, orderly, almost peaceful. The machines hummed, the floors shone, and if you kept your hands busy, your thoughts stayed soft. That's what I believed until one stormy Thursday in October. The shift began like any other. I stocked delivery kits, wiped down monitors, logged vitals, and checked meds twice. The midwife on duty, Claire, teased me for my perfect checklists. "You're going to make me look lazy," she said, smiling as she sipped bad coffee. Ward C held 2 sleeping mothers and 1 post-op patient. By midnight, rain ticked on the long windows like 1,000 fingernails. At 12:47 a.m., the intercom popped twice and went dead. Claire tapped it, frowned, and shrugged. I headed to the supply closet for more saline. When I stepped back out, the hall lights flickered quick and sharp, on, off, on, like someone was taking photos. That's when I heard it, a soft crying far away. I stopped in the doorway, the saline bag pressed against my chest. The sound came from the far end of the corridor, where Ward C met the old service hallway, a short passage we didn't use since the renovation. The cry rose, fell, broke into a whisper, then began again. I told myself it was a mother waking in pain. Normal. Human. I walked toward the sound. When I turned the corner, no one was there. Ward C's double doors were closed, the small windows dark. The old hallway stood open, unlit, a short black tunnel ending at a storage door we never used. The crying was clearer now, as if it were inside the wall. My back tingled, the old animal warning that says, "Do not turn around." "Emily?" Claire called from the station. I forced a laugh, said I was fine, and went back, leaving that darkness alone. At 1:12 a.m., the automatic doors to Ward C slid open by themselves. No motion sensor beep. No footsteps. Just open. Wait. Close. Pressure issue, Claire said without meeting my eyes. I checked the mothers anyway. Both slept. Monitors steady. I smoothed a blanket, turned, and froze. A stretcher stood in the corner where there hadn't been one. Half hidden by a curtain left half drawn, like someone had stepped away mid-task. The tag at the foot read, "Property of emergency, do not remove." "Claire," I whispered. "Did you move a stretcher up here?" She hadn't. We went closer. The curtain trembled once, a tiny ripple, the way fabric moves when someone exhales. I touched it. It felt cold and slightly damp, like laundry left out in the rain. I pulled it aside. The stretcher was empty. At 1:30 a.m., the crying returned, closer now, as if just outside the room. Claire heard it too. Her face went pale in the monitor light. "Check the Ward C bathroom," she said softly. "I'll stay with the patients. I didn't want to go, but I went." The bathroom lights flickered the second I hit the switch. White tile, steel sink, blue soap. Everything clean. Everything empty. I turned to leave and heard a wet scratching behind me. Not nails, skin. A slow, sticky drag against the wall. "Hello?" I said, because that's what we're trained to say. "Do you need help?" From the far stall, a voice whispered, raw and low, "They did wrong to me." The stall door stood half open, a wedge of dark. I nudged it with a knuckle. It swung in. Nothing. I stepped back. My badge lanyard lifted as if caught by a slight wind, but the room felt still. The mirror fogged up with a patch of breath that didn't come from me. I ran. At the station, I told Claire everything. She didn't call me silly. She glanced toward the old hallway and picked up the phone. "Calling security," she said, then added, "And Ben?" Ben was the night janitor. He always joked that his mop had seen more than the admin board. He rolled up with his cart, his grin fading when he saw our faces. "What did you hear?" he asked softly. "Crying," I said. "And a voice." Ben's eyes flicked to the old hallway. "I'll take a look," he said. "You stay with the moms." He didn't come back for 10 minutes. When he did, sweat darkened his collar. "Don't go down there," he said before we could ask. "Lights are out. The door at the end is stuck open. It's cold as a freezer. Floor is wet iron. Did you see anyone?" Claire asked. Ben shook his head, then looked past me, his face draining. "Emily," he whispered. "Don't move." The air behind me got heavy, like a wet blanket settling across my shoulders. Something pressed the back of my neck, not a hand, more like the weight of attention. I heard a thin metallic drip, drip, drip. the sound of fluid falling from a line that wasn't there. I turned. She sat on the floor just beyond the doorway, knees drawn up, hospital gown torn, hair stuck to her face. Her hands were slick with blood, and in her arms, she cradled something wrapped in a stained sheet. She didn't look at me. She stared at the wall, scratching it with the pads of her fingers, soft skin rasping against faded paint. "They did wrong to me," she said again, like a prayer no one answered. I should have run. Instead, I heard myself whisper, "Who did?" She turned her head as if it hurt. Her eyes were not empty. They were too full, the way eyes look when tears are held back. She opened her mouth, but the sound that came wasn't a name, it was a broken cry. The first breath of something that never learned how to breathe. The lights popped overhead. The corridor went black, then returned to normal. In that stuttering light she stood, rising like a puppet pulled by invisible strings. The sheet in her arms slipped, and for a heartbeat I saw a tiny gray foot, then cloth folded over it again. My legs moved before my thoughts did. I backed into a bed rail and ran. Claire shouted my name. Ben said a prayer under his breath. I sprinted past the vending machines into the staff bathroom and locked the door. My breath fogged the chill air. The vent hummed. The light flickered again because of course it did. I pulled out my phone. No service. I pressed my back to the door and listened. The hospital seemed to be holding its breath. Then the crying began again, not near, not far, right behind me. I spun. Only my reflection stared back. White uniform, wide eyes, damp hair. The stall doors behind me were shut. The crying swelled, then cut off like a mouth covered by a hand. From the last stall, the toilet flushed. The door creaked open. No one came out. I unlocked the bathroom and bolted. The following minutes are a blur. I know I fell in the hallway. I know my palms burned. I know my hand landed on something cold and soft, and when I looked down, my fingers pressed into a wet footprint the size of a child's. I gagged, stood, and ran until the world collapsed into white and noise. I woke to daylight in observation, an IV in my arm. Ruth Whitaker, our day-charge nurse who had seen more than most, sat beside my bed with a paper cup of water. "I believe you," she said quietly before I spoke. "We don't tell new staff much. Maybe that's kindness. Maybe it's cowardice. But you heard her. Who?" My voice scraped my throat. Ruth folded her hands. "We don't use her name at night," she said. "Years ago, a young woman came through this wing. Complications. A choice was made that shouldn't have fallen on a family, and the outcome was..." She paused, searching. "Cruel. She wants her child," I whispered. "She wants what she was promised," Ruth said. "Mercy, fairness, someone to say, 'We're sorry. We will do right by you.' She walks when the weather turns and the lights flicker. She cries when the halls are empty. She scratches where the old ward door used to be." Ruth looked toward the window. "We moved the door years back," she said. "The wall remembers. I signed my resignation that afternoon. I told HR I needed days, needed sunlight, needed a change, half true. I could have stayed and learned to ignore it. People can grow used to anything. But whenever I closed my eyes, I heard it again. They did wrong to me. Sometimes I wake at 3:30 a.m. and the house is so quiet it hums. If the porch light flickers or the pipes click, if rain taps the window like fingernails, I lie very still and do not move, because some halls are always waiting, some doors are always stuck open, and some cries follow you wherever you think you're safe. If you ever work a night shift and hear someone crying when no one is there, don't follow it. And if you already did, don't turn around. If your TV starts begging you to save someone you don't know, turn it off. If it keeps talking after that, run. I learned this in 2020. My name is Ethan Cole. I'm 28, live alone in a small apartment in Harbor City, and work an office job so dull it could put a caffeinated bear to sleep. My mornings are all the same: eggs, coffee, and local news. That morning started normally. It did not stay that way. The clock on my stove read 6:31 a.m. The sky was pale and tired outside my kitchen window. I cracked 2 eggs into a pan and turned on Channel 7 News out of pure habit. It felt safe: traffic, weather, a happy dog story, white noise for a half-awake brain. The anchors were the same pair as always. Lena Park and Michael Hennessy. Calm voices, easy smiles, clean suits. A scrolling ticker crawled along the bottom. Weather alert. Light rain until 9 a.m. Crash on eastbound 15. City Council vote tonight. I took my first sip of coffee, then the studio lights dimmed on screen, just a shade. It could have been a camera adjustment. Lena blinked, looked off to the side, then back at the camera. Her smile wobbled. Breaking news, she said. A 15-year-old boy and his mother are missing. Authorities are asking for help. Her voice trembled on the word help. I remember that clearly. It sounded like someone was holding her foot just out of frame. She looked down, swallowed, and forced a smile that wasn't a smile. Michael leaned forward. We need your help to find them, he said, and then his voice changed. It was still his voice, but something like a second voice slid under it, low and rough. We need your help right now. I lowered the coffee mug. My eggs hissed and popped behind me, but I didn't look away. Michael's face twitched once. Please, please find them, he said. He didn't blink. His eyes were too wide, too wet. The sound under his voice grew louder, like a growl on a busted speaker. Find him. Find him now. The feed cut to black. A white line of text appeared on a charcoaled screen. Sorry, viewers. This station has been hijacked. We are working to fix the issue. The message held for 3 seconds. Then the morning show returned as if nothing had happened. Lena smiled with the wrong part of her face and said, Up next, our weekend gardening guide. I stood there in my kitchen, coffee cooling in my hand, and decided it was a prank. Some hacker is playing with a broadcast switcher. It had to be. It was 2020. The world was already a strange place. I turned off the stove, gulped the coffee, and hurried to get dressed because my clock now said 7:04, and I was late. I drove to work through the thin rain. The streets were slick and clean, and the sky sat low like a ceiling, almost touching my head. I work in a multi-purpose building called Harbor Center. Offices, agencies, a stack of floors with different names but the same gray carpet. The main lot fills by 7:30, so most of us use the underground garage. It's always a little darker than it needs to be, always a little colder. I took my usual ramp down, swiped my badge, and found a spot by the enormous concrete pillar labeled B12. My rearview mirror caught movement, so I checked it without thinking. A white cargo van had parked 3 rows back. Its side door slid open. A man stepped out wearing a pigeon mask. Not a fun Halloween mask. Not a cute cartoon pigeon. It was gray rubber with a glossy beak and 2 holes too small for eyes. He wore a dark hoodie and pale gloves. He stood still and stared in my direction, though I couldn't be sure he could actually see me. I told myself it was a weird joke. I told myself to get out of the car and walk to the elevator. I told myself many things. The man turned, reached into the van, and pulled something out. His arms strained with the weight. He turned back toward me and raised what he was holding like a boxer showing trophies. 2 mannequin heads, I thought at first. Mannequin heads because my brain wanted a safe answer, but the hair on one was matted. The skin on both was too real. One looked like a teenage boy, the other a woman in her 40s. Their faces were pale and slack. Their eyes were shut. My brain made a calm space and stepped inside it. In that space, I turned the key, started the engine, and backed out without looking. In that space, I drove up the ramp and into the light like the building had caught fire. I parked illegally near the front doors, walked in with my badge still dangling, and went straight to security. I knew the guard on mornings, Rosa Alvarez, a woman with quick eyes and a serious voice. She took one look at my face and stood up. What did you see? I told her. I expected her to laugh. She didn't. She looked down at her monitor wall where the garage cameras blinked, then shook the mouse. The screens were snow. Cameras dropped 5 minutes ago, she said. Server rebooting. Stay here. Rosa called HPD, Harbor Police Department, while I waited and stared at the monitor wall as if I could force an image to appear on it. She kept her voice calm and short. She hung up. They're sending a car, I nodded. My hands were shaking. I only noticed because my badge clip ticked against the counter like a tiny metronome. Sit, she said softly. I sat. The camera feed returned with a sudden burst of static. Rosa clicked the grid to make it larger and flipped to Garage B. We both leaned in. The van was there. The side door was open. The space around it looked clean. No man in a mask. No one at all. When HPD arrived, they went down with Rosa. I stayed because I am not a hero. 10 minutes later, they radioed up. The van's plates were stolen, the back was empty, and the interior was spotless, as if it had been washed with bleach. No blood, no prints, nothing. One of the officers came up to take my statement. His name was Officer Dale Stone, with a clean haircut and tired eyes. He asked careful questions, the kind that test if you're lying without making you feel accused. "You're sure they were human?" he asked at last, voice gentle. "I'm not sure of anything," I said. "But I think yes," he nodded, nodded again. "We'll pull exterior traffic cams. If anyone came or went, we'll find them." "Okay," I said. "Can I go to work now?" It sounded stupid when I said it aloud. He studied me for a second, then gave a half smile. "Maybe take the day. But if you want normal, normal helps." I went up to floor 11 because normal felt like the thinnest life raft in the world. When I reached my desk, my coworker Lila looked up with headphone hair and said, "You look like you saw a ghost, dude." "Something like that," I said. I told her a cleaned-up version, a weird van, a scary mask, and I called the cops. She chewed her lip and said nothing for a while. At 10:03 a.m., an email hit. Subject line, "Mandatory Safety Update." It was from building management. It read, "Due to a broadcast interference incident affecting regional channels this morning, and a security event in Garage B, please remain on your floor until noon while we coordinate with HPD. Avoid the basement levels. Thank you," Lila read over my shoulder. "Broadcast interference," she said. "Like that creepy thing on Channel 7? You saw that?" "Yeah," I said. "My TV did the same." She nodded slowly. "Mine too." We waited. Phones buzzed. People whispered. Someone turned on the break room TV because humans always turn on TVs when they're scared, like light is a cure. Channel 7 was on. The anchors were smiling again, too bright. The set felt colder somehow, like the colors had been pulled down a notch you couldn't name. A banner read, "Live Community Gardens," and then the audio dropped. The picture stayed, but the sound fell into a deep, empty well. Lena's mouth moved. But what came through was a slow, heavy breath like a person right next to the microphone. 3 breaths, 4, 5. Michael stared into the camera. The breath grew louder, closer, and then his lips shaped words we didn't hear. The screen cut to black. White text, "Sorry viewers, this station has been hijacked. It stayed longer this time." Someone in the break room muttered, "Nope." Lila turned the TV off. We stood without moving for a few seconds, then drifted back to our desks like we were walking against water. At 11:19 a.m., my phone vibrated with a text from an unknown number. "Please help us." I stared at it. Another came 30 seconds later. "He has us in the dark. We can hear the TVI typed back, 'Who is this?' And my message sat on sending for a full minute before it flashed, 'Not delivered.' Air felt thin. A third text appeared anyway. "He makes it talk." I walked to Rosa's desk with my phone in my fist. She read the texts, jaw tight. "We got 6 calls like that already," she said. Different numbers. All with trash routing. HPD Cyber is on it. Trash routing? Like someone bounced it through a dozen dead Sims, she said. "It's a puppet show." A puppet show was a terrible phrase. It made me think of invisible strings in a hand where no hand should be. "Ethan," she added, and her voice softened. "Go home, lock your door. Don't answer unknown calls. Don't turn on Channel 7. I went back to my desk and did none of those things. I sat, watched the minute hand climb, and at 12:01 p.m., they lifted the floor hold. I didn't go to the garage. I took the stairs up, exited through the side door, and walked 6 blocks in the rain to the street lot where my friend sometimes let me park my car. I needed daylight, other human beings, and the feeling of a sky. The sky didn't help. It was heavy and low, and the rain was thin and mean, like threads on your face. I drove home with the radio off. My apartment felt too quiet when I let myself in. I locked the deadbolt, then pushed the dining chair under the handle because I'd seen that in a movie, and it felt like doing something. My phone buzzed again. Unknown number. Turn on the TV. I didn't. I set the phone face down and made tea with hands that shook just enough to spill sugar on the counter. I tried to read. I couldn't recall the words after a page. The TV clicked on by itself. I dropped the cup. It shattered. Hot tea ran toward my feet. The remote lay where I'd left it, untouched. The screen glowed blue, then snapped to Channel 7. The volume set itself to a soft human level like a whisper in a church. The set was empty. No anchors, no couch, Just the desk and the camera were aimed a little too low. The sound was that same heavy breathing, closer now with a faint wetness in it, like cloth over a mouth. A figure walked into the frame and sat behind the desk. It wore the pigeon mask. It tilted its head once, twice. The rubber beak gleamed under studio lights. Gloved hands rested lightly on the desk, palms down like a polite guest. The mask turned slightly as if it was keeping its eyes on me through a hole in the glass that wasn't there. The voice that came was wrong. It was filtered, crushed, and smoothed, yet it still felt like it had come through water. "Hello, Ethan," it said. My stomach flipped like someone had pulled the floor out with a rope. "I don't know you," I said, because silence was worse. "We know you," the voice said. "You watch in the morning. You like the weather. You drink coffee that's too dark." I did not move. "You saw us," it said. "Down below." My mouth was dry. "Where are they?" I asked. It came out thin. The head tilted again. "In the dark," it said. "Under the city, where the signal hums." "Why are you doing this?" "Because the city stopped listening," it said. "The signal makes them listen." My phone buzzed again. I didn't look. The voice continued, soft and steady and wrong. "Bring your car," it said. "Go to Pier 3, park under the old radio tower. Leave the keys." "No," I said. It did not argue. "Find him now," it said in Michael's voice, layered under the first one. "Find him now," in Lena's voice. "Find him now," in 3 more voices I didn't know. The screen cut to black. "Sorry. Viewers. This station has been hijacked." The TV turned itself off. I stood in my kitchen, tea cooling on my socks, and realized I was still holding the chair against the door like a cartoon. My hands had gone numb. I did not go to Pier 3. I called HPD. They told me to stay put. 2 officers came and took my statement for the 2nd time that day, while pretending their hands did not shake either. When they left, the apartment felt like a box inside a bigger box inside an even larger one, all the lids closing. Night came down fast. The rain quit. The city made small noises that sounded like breathing. At 3:07 a.m., my phone chimed with a video message from another unknown number. I shouldn't have opened it. I opened it. It showed a room with no windows and a concrete floor. A fluorescent light flickered, slow and sick. In the frame's corner, a bundle of blankets lay on a cot. A hand reached out from the blankets. Small. A boy's hand. It lifted, fell, lifted again. "Please." A girl's voice whispered off camera. "Please." The camera moved. For 1 second it caught a face, a boy with hair stuck to his forehead, eyes too big for his face, skin pale with fear. He didn't speak. He just looked at the lens the way a person looks at a hole in the ice. The picture snapped sideways and went dark. I heard the sound of something scraping against the floor, then the sound that has never left my head. A faint coo like a pigeon near a city bridge. I sent the video to HPD. They told me not to respond, not to move, not to do anything at all. I sat in a chair until morning and watched the wall as if it might open. A week later, Harbor Police held a press conference. They reported a series of broadcast hijacks across 3 counties. They said they had persons of interest. They said tips from the public helped locate a storage unit by the old Harbor radio tower. They said 2 victims had been found alive. They didn't show the person they arrested. They didn't say the words pigeon mask. They didn't tell my name. I changed my morning routine. I don't watch the news. I don't listen to the radio. I drink coffee in the quiet and look out at the sky even when it's heavy. I park in the open with a long line of cars behind me. I keep my TV unplugged unless I need it for a movie I've already seen. Sometimes the screen still turns blue on its own. Not on, just a pulse, a flicker, like a fish rolling under a dark lake. My phone still gets texts from numbers that don't exist. 3 words at a time. "We can hear." He makes it talk. HPD says it's residual routing, that the case has loose ends that will knot with time. People say a lot of things to make you feel safe. Some work for a while. If your TV starts begging you to save someone you don't know, turn it off. If it keeps talking after that, run. And if a man in a pigeon mask steps out of a van in the dark and looks at you through a beak, don't wait to see what he's holding. Don't wait at all. If you ever rent a motel room and the number on your key doesn't match the one on the door, don't go in. I didn't know that in 2020. Arrival, I was driving cross-country that summer, Utah to Oregon, trying to outrun the end of a failed marriage and a job I'd quit without notice. 3 days into the trip, I was too tired to care where I stopped. Somewhere along Highway 84, I saw a flickering neon sign, Pine Motel, vacancy. The place looked half abandoned. A single light buzzed above the office door. Inside, an older man sat behind a counter surrounded by flypaper strips. "Room 6? He said before I had a chance to ask. I blinked. "Sure, how much?" "40 cash. He slid a tarnished brass key across the counter. The tag read Room 7, I pointed. "You said 6. He squinted like he hadn't. "7's open." Same thing, I didn't argue. I just wanted a bed. First night, Room 7 smelled like old pine cleaner and something sour beneath it. A single bed, a floral blanket, a wooden chair, and a painting of mountains hung crooked above the headboard. I took a shower, scrolled through my phone, then noticed the wallpaper seam near the bathroom rippling gently, as if a breeze passed behind it, no vents. No window open, I pressed it solid wall, told myself it was fatigue. At 2 a.m., a knock rattled the door, 3 slow taps. When I looked through the peephole, nothing. I waited. Then, through the thin wall near the bed, I heard breathing. Not snoring. Breathing. A slow inhale, long exhale, like someone lying on the other side of the wall. I turned on the TV and left it there until dawn. Morning. Sunlight made the room look normal again, almost. I went to the front desk to check out, but the office was empty. A note on the counter read, "Back soon. Leave the key in the box. Fine by me." As I walked past the rooms, I noticed something strange. The doors went 3, 4, 5, 7. There was no room 6. Between 5 and 7 was a narrow patch of wall, about the width of a door, but no knob, no hinges, nothing. Just faded paint in the shape of a rectangle. I stopped, frowned, and traced the outline with my hand. Cold. Someone coughed behind me. The older man stood there, eyes watering from the sun. "Checking out?" he asked. "Yeah," I said. "Quick question, why isn't there a room 6? He stared for a second, too long. "Was years ago. Fire took it." He turned and walked back inside before I could ask more. The return that night. A storm rolled across the desert, visibility was trash, and my gas light came on 40 miles from anywhere. Guess where the next sign pointed? Pine Motel, 1 mile ahead. My hands tightened on the wheel. Every rational part of me said, keep driving. But the thunder cracked like a gunshot and rain hit sideways. The same neon sign blinked through the storm. When I stepped into the office, the same older man was there, wearing the same shirt, with the same flypaper strip swaying gently. He looked up, smiled a little too late. "Room 7's ready." My throat went dry. "Do you remember me?" He blinked once. "You were here last night." "No, last night I was in Boise." He stared, eyes milky. "Boise's far." He pushed the same brass key toward me. I took it. The tag said Room 6. Room 6, the hallway looked longer than before. When I reached between 5 and 7, there was now a door. Dusty white. Number 6 nailed crookedly above the knob. It shouldn't have been there, but it was. I could have turned around instead. I unlocked it. The room was dim and smelled of wet plaster. Furniture covered with sheets. In the center stood a hospital bed, its rusted rails and wheels locked in place. A single bulb hung from the ceiling, swinging slightly. I whispered, "Hello?" Something on the bed moved, just the blanket shifting once like a body taking a breath. I stepped closer. The blanket sank, then rose. I reached for the light chain. The bulb flared bright and died with a pop. Darkness. Somewhere in the dark, metal scraped tile. A soft moan followed, low and wet. I stumbled back toward the door. The knob turned from the other side. The door slammed, locking me in. The voice. The room was filled with a sound like the whispering of underwater voices. I pressed against the wall, searching for a light switch, but my hand found only peeling wallpaper, warm under my palm, like skin, then a woman's voice close to my ear. "They left me here." I froze. "Who?" I whispered. "The guests," she said. "The ones who hear the breathing." Something brushed my shoulder. I swung around, but the dark had depth now, black shapes against black air. The voice came again, trembling. He locks them in when they ask about the missing room. Who does? I said, the owner. My chest tightened. I ran for the door and slammed the key in the lock. It wouldn't turn. I kicked, pounded, screamed. No sound came out. My throat moved, but silence swallowed it. Behind me, the sheet on the bed lifted. A pale hand, gray and slick, slid from beneath it and reached toward me. The fingernails scraped across the floor, leaving trails like ash. I yanked the handle until it tore free, stumbled backwards, and the door opened behind me on its own. I fell through into the hallway, gone when I looked up. The hallway was empty. No door, 6, just the same painted wall. The key in my hand was blank. No tag, no number. I ran outside. The rain had stopped, but the sky was still bruised with thunderclouds. The office light glowed faintly yellow. I burst in. No one behind the counter. The chair was turned toward the wall. On the counter lay a newspaper. Edges yellowed. The date, August 12th, 1998. Front page headline, Fire at Pine Motel kills owner and guest. Room 6 destroyed. Underneath, a photo of a younger man, the same eyes, the same face as the old clerk. I left the paper, left the key, and drove until sunrise. Epilogue: 2 months later, curiosity beat fear. I searched the address online. Pine Motel had been condemned since 1999. Every article said the same thing. The owner died in the fire trying to save a woman trapped in room 6. I went back once. Broad daylight to see. The building was half collapsed. Windows boarded up, but the door numbers were still there, 3, 4, 5. Show some legs as I turned to leave. Wind hissed through broken rafters. For a second, the sunlight dimmed, and the old neon sign buzzed faintly, as if trying to light again. In that hum, so low it might have been my imagination, a woman's voice said, "They left me here." My phone camera froze mid-record. When I checked the footage later, it showed a single frame of a white door between 5 and 7, the number 6 hanging crooked. Every time I replayed it, the door seemed a little more open. If you ever stop at a roadside motel and the manager offers you a room that isn't on the map, pay for gas instead. And if you hear breathing behind the wall at night, don't answer. Because some rooms don't stay where they're built. Some rooms follow you.